my contractless life looks like, which means I don't work for anyone. I don't apply for jobs anymore. I am not hired by any institutions or organizations. I get to work from wherever in the world I want to. I get to work on whatever impact I love and believe in. And I get to do that impact in the way that I find the most useful with my amazing clients. And the best part is I get to spend my time and energy on things that I really believe make sense, while of course traveling and being with my loved ones and all of this. This is how my contractless life looks like. Hi everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Estella Monova. I'm a life coach for transitioning humanitarians, and I wanted to talk to you today about how my contractless life looks like. And I have talked about this in the past before. Now I feel like I have found new different ways to explain it. And also for anyone who does not know me and you have this desire like me to have that full freedom, then this might be for you. So after leaving the UN, I really wanted to live my life in the way that I wanted to, right? So I had three desires that I keep telling about. I had the desire to do things and impact in my own way. I had the desire to live in places that I really want to, and of course, be with my loved ones while having my UNPC3 salary that I could replicate. And as I was doing it, I also realized that this contractless life emerged where I was no longer willing to follow my fears of stability, fears of feeling like I need safety and security and stability. Because if I kept following them, then I would feel victim of them the whole time. And I would keep searching for ways to be hired by other organizations, ways to be competing with others, ways to be always doing things that the system wants me to do. And I feel like one of the biggest things that we can really do as humans, and we have that power, is to feel and notice, recognize our independence from the system. So that's why I was feeling like, okay, if I want that type of freedom, I want the freedom to be doing what I love, to be living where I want to be making the money that I want to. If I want that type of freedom, then what needs to happen for me to experience and live that life? And I feel like I have been doing that for 5 years, in the last 5 years, and I feel proud for having done that. So here is what it took for me to realize and recognize how I have that power to create the life that I desire that is full of freedom. So the first one is always like I always feel I needed to untangle my victim mindset, even though I felt like I untangled it so many times already, but it still was there. So I was falling victim to my fears of wanting security and safety and stability and believing that that comes from the system, believing that that comes from a contract job, right? I used to believe that's the case. And then to realize that I actually was in charge of those emotions. It's a bit just like we learned, I think, as humanitarians, that we can no longer outsource our mental, emotional well being to the employer. And the same way that I noticed that our stability, safety, and security are within our own charge. And the best part is we always had it. And the reason why we didn't notice or recognize possibly is because we were told that that only comes from a job, a contract job, that only comes from other entities and organizations. And we never learned how that comes from within us. And the sooner that I realized that all of those I had within me, and I didn't need to be fallen victim to this manipulation that it comes from something else, somewhere else, then I realize, okay, if I can create or feel and recognize my own safety, security, and stability, then I don't need to worry about anything, right? Because then I get to feel free to be doing what I want to. So that's the first things to realize, that you no longer need to be a victim of those uh, fundamental human emotions, because you have those already. And the reason why you might not be feeling it is because of, programming from society that you need to have it from somewhere else, from an employer, from a job contract. And the minute you start realizing that you have it, and you start rewiring yourself, or you redeciding that you have it, you are in charge of it, then you realize, oh, you had it all along. And the same goes for fear, right? Whatever the fears that I used to have that led me to this life where I've been living my contractless life, all of those fears were manageable. And when I was transitioning, I didn't know that. Uh, I knew that they were manageable, but I didn't know or were master. I was not a master of how to do that. And once I learned how to do that, I stopped being a victim to my fears, whatever the fears you can imagine, right? Fears of other people's judgments, fears of things not working out, fears of losing stability, fears of all the things. And what else that it took me to really realize that I can live this free life is my identity, that I get to choose the identity that I want to be in. Because I think before I was so bought into the UN identity of being so powerful, being so confident, being so I don't know, feeling important, all of those things. And then as soon as I transitioned out of the UN, I realized also that all of those identities were question mark, right? Because they didn't have the basis anymore. So I couldn't rely on UN to be feeling all of those. So then I realized, okay, if I cannot rely on UN to feel all of those and to feel confident and powerful and important and all of those things, then I get to create my own basis of how to feel them, right? Excuse me. Because if this is the price of me feeling free and living my contractless life, then I can figure out how to feel, excuse me, worthy and confident and powerful, all of those things. And then I realized that again, this was another societal wiring where we can feel this thing if we have done this thing, right? So this conditioning that we can only be worthy if we have found our space in the society. If we can only feel confident if we have proven this way. If we can only do this and feel this if we can prove it this way, or like condition this way. And this conditioning kept running my whole system the whole time. And then I realized I don't want to live that conditioned life, right? I didn't like when my parents conditioned me to, in order for you to be a good daughter, you need to do X, Y, Z, right? Or in order for me not to be angry with you, you need to behave X, Y, Z ways. And I have done that like 16 years of my life while I was with my parents. And then once I started like living my independent life, I started looking at, okay, how do I want to feel and how do I want to live? But I think it took me another 15 years to realize, like until I was 30, to realize, okay, the way that I've been living was not serving me. It was full of survival and I didn't want that. So then I started looking at, okay, how do I want to live this life, right? And eventually I came to the conclusion that I want to live life in the most free version possible. And in order to feel that freedom, I need to understand that my feelings, whatever feelings I desire to feel, they're not conditioned to anything external. It's just that this is how I was brought up to believe that's the case. So that's why I started then feeling like free from my own victimhood, right? So I started feeling like, okay, if I don't need to be victim to my stability, to my safety and security, because I'm able to supply those feelings myself. And if I am no longer at the mercy of fears of different types, if I'm no longer also afraid of making my own money work, then why the hell am I wanting to stay in the one that I don't want to, right? And then of course the decision was very, I don't know, automatic. It felt like it made sense to be living my life the way I wanted to, without any job contracts, because I knew that whatever job contracts that we receive, they all come with strings. They all come with requirements, right? They all come with their own way of doing things, and we need to abide. That's just how it is. And again, there is a like I have no uh, please hear me well. I have no judgment for anyone who wants to do it that way. I think that's amazing. But I also happen to know so many humanitarians who don't want to do things that way, right? So therefore, this message is really for people who are desiring and craving for that full freedom. And they're wanting to know how or whether that full freedom exists, because I think a lot of people don't believe it's possible. So therefore, I would like to use my experience of 5 years, the last 5 years, to showcase how it is possible. So that's why once I realized all of those, that I don't need to be victim of those emotions, I don't need to be victim of that money, I don't need to be victim of those circumstances, I don't need to condition myself that in order for me to get this, I need to do XYZ, or in order to get the success, I need to struggle and die for it. I decided that's not how I want to be doing things. That's not how I want to be living things anymore. Right. So then once I learned all of this and learned how to master it, especially within myself, I started realizing, oh my God, all the success and all the way that I wanted to do things were available to me, but they were somehow hidden behind uh, those fears and worries and conditioning, right? Once I started like looking at, okay, this is what I don't want, this is what I don't want, this is how I don't want to do things, this is how I don't want to do things, then all the ways of how I could do things started revealing themselves, right? So nowadays, I started looking at this even more powerfully than I have ever done before as to how a contractless life can work and look like. So, as you know that, or if you've been following me for some time, you may know that I have been experimenting with this idea of we are humans that have multi versions available within us, right? From the concept of multiverse. And we have all the parallel realities that we can switch to or we want to switch to are all within us. And even if that doesn't resonate you, I think what may resonate with you is that whatever the higher power source or universe that I believe in my case, but maybe even you may have your own ideas of how there is a certain force that you have within you that is so powerful that allows you to live your life in whichever the way you want to. And I have been experimenting with this idea for some time now as to if I have the whole universe within me, or in other words, the universe exists only in my mental perception of how I view it, right? And the whole universe. For some people, like for religious people, it might be they may resonate with more the God within you. So if we really believe that God or universe or some power that is so powerful exists within us, then why are we bound by these limitations, right? Why are we then bound by our own fears of stability or safety or worthiness or whatever else? Why are we bound by them, right? Or why are we allowing ourselves to be bound by them? And then recently, I have been having this like immense feeling of power that I'm recognizing that I haven't really paid attention to. I haven't really observed and felt extensively that I always had within me because of my survival instincts of surviving here and there and trying to get there, trying to get here. And that became like my pattern the whole time. And now to remove that pattern and install new ones, I'm going from the assumption that we all humans, you watching me, myself, there's like everyone on this planet has this immense power that we may not even recognize that we have that exists within us that is beyond powerful, beyond limits that cannot abide by any limitations or um, any fears. The problem is only that we haven't learned how to recognize that power, how to feel that power, how to use that power to our advantage, how to feel so much free that we are like capable of whatever we choose to, essentially. And the more I recognize this power, everything that I desire now is getting implemented faster and faster. Every desire that I choose to, every result, every outcome that I choose to is getting implemented or coming into my reality faster and faster because I think I have finally learned how to focus from all the problems, fears, worries, to my that innate power, that power that we all had. Whether if you believe in God, then it's a God's powers. If you believe in the universe, it's the universe's powers. If you believe in your own self, your own power, that is so immense that it has no limits whatsoever, and the limits only imposed by our rational mind. But we always have that power to override whatever the limitations that we have. And coaching can be an amazing tool to do that, but there are other ways you can do that as well. And I would like for everyone who is feeling like, okay, this is the type of life I want to have for the rest of my life, then I would like for you to know that you don't need to be a victim of those fears. You don't need to be a victim of your identities that keep telling you that you can only be successful within a UN context or within the humanitarian context. You don't need to be a victim of your fears about how money can't be done and how you will be sorry and all of those things, but instead learn that ability to recognize that power that can trump any other limitations you have. So, in other words, you have the traditional way of getting coached and removing limitations incrementally. And I think that's an amazing work you can do. I have done it for 10 years. Now I'm also realizing we have other powers that I haven't noticed before that can yield even more effective results if we start recognizing and learning about those powers that we have within that comes from our assumption that we have those unlimited, beyond limits, powerful forces that exist within us, within our mind, within our heart, that can help us to remove any limitations possible in days, in weeks, and experience the life we want to. So, if you would like to do this work with me to create your own unique contractless life, I would love for you to come coach with me. I would love for you to experience what I experience on the day to day and feel how limitless and powerful life can be. And if this is you, there is a link below that you can book a consult with me. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Have an amazing time.